All right, let's get to work. Morning, everybody. We got gap down in the market. Again, anytime you're under the 50 SMA, the markets tend to gap down. That's just the nature. That's just the nature of the game. Till we get over this level here, you're going to get gap downs all the time. That's just how the market's going to work right now. Something to be mindful of. The SPY's down about 0.5%. It's just been a choppy. I wouldn't say choppy is actually a bad word. The market hasn't been choppy at all. I mean, there's been runners every day, but it's been different, I would say. Not choppy. Choppy is a word for losers. When a trader says market's choppy, that usually just means, hey, I suck at trading and I'm choppy. The market ain't choppy, you're choppy. Always been like that, so just be mindful. No such thing as choppy market. Only choppy trades. Now, the market has been different, that is for sure, but we are pretty much near highs at this point. We are pretty much near highs on the Dow. We are at highs on the S&P 500. The QQQs still range bound, I think, is till we break over this 325, it's just going to be, it's going to be a little bit different, all right? Be a little bit different. But we're not going to say choppy. No such thing. No such thing. All right, so the IWM now has gotten this support here. I mean, down about 0.2%. It was a little bit weak in the morning yesterday. The line in the sand on the IWM is going to be about 208. So what's going to happen is if you break under 208, then it's going to really flush out all the kind of small caps and, all of those kind of names. We may just be, stuck in an extended period of range for a period of time. You get your 9 EMA coming down, 20 SMA coming down. And obviously, if you look from the coronavirus lows of 94 to about 250, the IWM was up hundreds of percent, having an extended period where you go sideways and consolidate some gains could definitely be in the cards, as there is a shift from more speculative and techie names to some of the more industrial names. If you really look at what types of stocks have been the biggest movers of, let's say like the last 90 days. If you look here, it's like a 90-day scan. What you start to see is, like you have TV, airlines, like this is a cubicle place or a storage facility, TV. You don't see any of like your traditional, momentum type of stocks. So that's where the shift in the market has been. And frankly, if you're just trying to do the same stuff that was working before, then yeah, you're not going to do it, right? You should be really thinking like, okay, do I need to be in some steel companies, some ore companies, whatever it might be? There's a whole host of, trending stocks this year that just, they move like, if you didn't know that this was an iron ore company, you would think, oh, that's like a battery company, the way it moves, So movement is movement. We just have to be always adjusting to like what's going down, and then we'll see, what's happening for the, rest of the year. Who knows? There's going to be stocks here like this, like U.S. Steel, like this thing was a few dollars, right? Now you're at $25. So there is momentum in the market. It's just not momentum in like your traditional, I wouldn't even say traditional, just it's not momentum in the names that you want to play, right? Like we want to play. What we want to do and what's happening is just different right now, and that's where it's always going to be, hey, Kunal, how you doing? So I would add some stocks like this U.S. Steel or, STLD. You have a lot of stocks that got like some momentum on these things, that you can trade back and forth. Like this is where the action is, and frankly, that's just what we have to do with these things. We'll see what else is going on, but I would add STLD. I would add U.S. Steel. Get some of these old grandpa companies on your watch list. They still move pretty good. They still move pretty good. That's just where we got to go with these things. So I would add both of these to your watch list. Let's go in and see what else is on. So you can see here, NCTY, CAN. These are Bitcoin companies. Looks like Bitcoin's sitting around 59,000. We may get a run in some of these Bitcoin companies. I think CAN is, as long as it hangs out over the 50 SMA, It has a potential. One thing with CAN that we should be just aware of is that even if the price of Bitcoin goes up, it doesn't mean that these stocks have to go up. That these companies are turds. And turds, they have their day in the sun, and then the sun becomes a red giant and expands and takes over all the planets and then explodes into a supernova, and that's just kind of what happens. And then before you know it, Bitcoin could still be going up, but this thing has exploded and just turns into interstellar gas, and it's gone for long periods of time. What are you going to do, right? So now that's where we might be with this. So we'll see if this holds the 50 SMA. We just definitely don't know. Mara looks, I think, a little bit better. You have your trend line break over here, and then Riot probably looks the worst out of the group. So I think this one is still like it's in a much weirder sandwich. I think we go with Mara. The key is going to be yesterday's highs. If it starts to bust over it, we should be pretty good. Well, I mean, that's just common knowledge. Please, you didn't go to elementary school? You must have went to school in Arkansas. Man, both of these, Adam, Mara, CAN. Now, we don't know. Once again, they don't have to go up just because Bitcoin goes up. If these things have peaked out, then they've just peaked out. You can see like the selling in this on gaps has been actually, it's been like pretty diligent. Like anytime you see some strength, these things are getting sold off. So I'm a little bit apprehension. You can see this particular day it gapped up too and it got sold off. So that is just, there may just be a disconnect on these things. So we'll see how the price action is. I would, if we start to play these things, I would make sure to only take a tester and be okay with just stopping out, because there's still so much selling going on in this that we just can't, we just don't know till we know. Dun, 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 dun. Good. Now, I know everybody was trying to bounce this Viac yesterday. This is the Colombian Viagra. Man, it's just stuck in a range all day. This type of trading is really tricky. What happens sometimes is you can get into what's called a crowded trade. And what I mean by crowded trade is, this thing was sitting at $100, it gets down to 40. Everybody and their uncle's trying to bounce it, right? Everybody, their uncle, their moms, everybody's trying to bounce it. So what ends up happening is like the trade just ends up done, like when it becomes too obvious, sometimes the trades will just die, till less people are talking about them or looking at them. So will they rip today? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But that was some tricky trading yesterday. It looked like it could bounce like 5 times yesterday. The same thing with this Disca. This thing looked so many times like it was going to bounce and then it just died. I don't really know what to make out of it, except that it's a crowded trade. Everybody was trying to long these things, and sometimes when you get a crowded trade, they just don't follow through in your traditional manner. And I think some of those, we saw a little bit of that. TME's another one that obviously got just dumped here in a pure liquidation. There's 400 million shares sold. There were 400 million shares sold the other day. Yesterday, there was a decent amount of volume on it, but it's still, like you can see yesterday, it was really one of its bigger volume days. And it was probably its biggest volume day on the buy side ever for it. And it still didn't really do anything for the day. It just kind of sat around. So that's something that we'll have to just be mindful of. I think that probably these things are going to bounce at some point, but it's not always an obvious trade. And once everybody's staring at it, they just don't have as much fun. Baidu's the same thing. We can put alerts near the high of the previous day, and I think that's probably where we want to look. But if we're trying to come in, like say mid-range on these things, then we may just get stuck. Range-bound stocks are the hardest to day trade. What I mean is that every time it looks good, it'll dump, it'll look good, it'll dump, it'll look good, and you'll just kind of crisscross around back and forth from the VWAP, just getting nicked out 50 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents. Before you know it, you lost 50 cents 10 times. Well, guess what? That ends up being 5 points. you end up getting smoked out for the day. We have to be just like really, really careful that we don't get stuck in that. I had a sense, thank God, I was actually just deathly hungover yesterday, and so I only popped in for the first like 30 minutes, and then I took off. Or I would have been long in this thing too, nonstop, and probably end up losing $50,000. It did not look fun. Thank the Lord. Now, on the other side, there are some other Chinese stocks that were having much better range. This future had a big push kind of into that midday, about a $20 pop. Vips is another one that, could get some action going. This thing too, right? $46, right to the 200 SMA. We'll see. I've got all these on the list. I think TME and IQ tend to move the cleanest, but they were both stuck in range. IQ's got a lot of support here at this 50. I'm going to go to a weekly chart here. A lot of support at the 50. Good. You know what? I saw a little bit. I think, did anybody catch any news on JMIA? It's up like 7-8% in the morning. You're sitting on some support here. Maybe this thing holds a bounce. I'm not sure. It could just be, it could be a spot that gets sold off too. We'll have to keep an eye on it and see if it holds that level. In this market, sometimes when you think something is a long, that's usually the spot that actually turns into the short. That's the way it goes. You can see this kind of middle finger that's sticking up here on this. Anytime you see something like that, right, where it looks like you got knuckles deep, middle finger, that's usually a big, that's usually a rollover signal. So we'll see. It's due for a bounce at this point. You're down, been cut in half, but I'm not sure if it needs to get down into the 1920 zone. Ideally for this one, if we could get this thing 18, 19, that'd probably refresh the buyers on it. Till then, it may just keep getting sold off, but who knows? We'll keep an eye on it. I'm not sure exactly if this thing is going to hold, but I'm keeping it on the list, and we'll keep an open mind on it. I don't think we need too much stuff, add in a couple of these like oils and steels, and then we have, a whole host of these Chinese stocks that will try to, bounce. And I think we keep it very, very simple. Let me see if there's any good news plays running around here. We're probably Disca 4% junk. Junk. Yeah, we're out of earnings season, so that's where you're seeing like not as many news plays that have been popping off. I think we could probably put a couple of these NFTs on the list. They've been pretty orderly the last few days. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe a little bit of a bounce on a couple of these. Even the Dolphins like sitting. It got sold off yesterday, but it is sitting on some support here for the most part too. And frankly, it's just got an awesome name. It'd be nice to just be like the Dolphin Entertainment. So I put both of these on the list. We'll see if maybe they get some juice. They were nasty little pullbacks on them yesterday. The other one, what was the one with the H? That one was actually working a lot better. HOVF. That one had a nice trend on it. You're down about 10% in the morning. That should trigger the SSR, oddly enough. We may actually get a rebound or a red to green potential action on this. I put this on the list. Let's watch and see if this opening gap holds down. If it does, we'll go for a red to green and come in hot on this thing. Good. This is probably top of the list. If it holds, we'll have to see how it opens. If it starts to hold, we'll preempt the red to green, and then we'll see what goes down. It's in a nice trend, and frankly, it had some good juice yesterday into the close. I like that. Like when they pop hard like that into the close, even if they gap down the next day, it ends up being like an interesting buy spot, right? I'd rather open weak than gap up. So I think we're in a good spot on this. If we need a short, Alexi brought this one to me. This is SPLK. You've got a sweet spot here at 132. Test. You get your 90 MA coming down right on it. You got a bear flag here. If the techs start to dump, we got a nice, easy location here. I would put an alert right around. I'd put an alert right around like about 132. If it busts below 132, I think that we'll probably get a short on this one. The way this one trades too, like if it busts under there, you might just rip like a $3-4 candle right off the bat. Like it typically, it typically can just, it doesn't do a crazy amount of volume, and it's usually doing about 3 to 4 million shares. So you're right in that sweet spot of liquidity where if there's even a little bit of selling, 500,000 shares worth, they'll drop it $5 real fast, especially at the open where the liquidity will be light on it. We like that. I like that ability to just dump very, very quickly. Man, Excel, what a turd. Oh, my Lord. When are SPACs coming back? Jeez. SPAC life was the best life. All these kind of former... It was so fun. That 3-4 weeks, that might have been most fun I ever had trading. That might have been the most fun I ever had in trading. Now they've all just died down. I think it's going to take some time probably, to just even out. That's just how it goes. Yeah, Tesla's kind of holding up too. This is a bigger rollover pattern also. I mean, it's going to take months for this thing to heal out. You can see here, this is just a nice rollover pattern too. You can see your MAs are pointing down. Maybe $500. It start bottom around 500 to 300, somewhere around here, most likely. We'll see what happens. They're just bleeders at this point. There's nothing you can do on them, just except wait it out. Time heals. It's like a bad breakup, right? Just the only thing that can heal is some Netflix, some ice cream, some masturbations, and some time. And, you think you'll never get past it. And then one day, you just wake up with a glow on your face and revenge in your heart, and you go on living. That's life. That's life. For anybody that's been dumped recently, that's the way you heal. That's the way you heal. You just need time. It peaked out in January. Yeah, late spring, summer. This will probably start to turn its way around. It's a good thing I missed it. It's a good thing I missed it. Yeah, TME's holding up. I think we got a good spot. I think we got some good spots. I think the Chinese stocks will actually move a little bit cleaner than these TV stocks. Look, in general, TV stocks are, right, they've never been hot, so we'll see. I think the Chinese names are probably going to move a little bit better. We'll see what goes down with these things, and we'll have to be aware, like maybe they turn into freaking bear flags. Cool. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. Good. We got China. We got TV. We got Bitcoin. We'll watch and see if maybe JMIA holds up. Well, Marco, they might go up. They might go down. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I guess the big thing is as long as they hold the 200 SMA, then you just give the benefit of the doubt to the long, right? At least on a longer term basis. Good. That's the list. I'm sticking to it.